They say the West was won with courage, but truth is, it was often lost in revenge. Between law and chaos, honor and betrayal, there were countless battles that never reached the pages of history. Moments when neighbor turned on neighbor, when justice hung by a thread, and when the sound of gunfire meant something more than survival. It meant retribution. Hey, you're watching Echoing Westwinds, where we bring forgotten stories of the American frontier back to life. If you believe the Wild West still has secrets worth uncovering, make sure to subscribe and saddle up for another journey into the blood and dust of history's lost trails. Because today, we're looking at two forgotten wars of the Wild West: the Mason County War of Texas and the Tutt-Everett Feud of Arkansas. Two conflicts that began with politics, pride, and cattle, and ended in smoke, vengeance, and silence. It started in Mason County, Texas, 1875. The war they called the Hoodoo War, but its roots ran decades deeper, born not in Texas, but across the Atlantic. By the mid-1800s, waves of German immigrants crossed the ocean, searching for a new start. They settled in the heart of Texas, drawn by the promise of fertile soil and open range. But as with every new beginning in the frontier, their arrival stirred resentment. Local ranchers saw them as outsiders, foreign, soft, and loyal to the wrong cause during the Civil War. And beneath that tension, something older was brewing: the cattle trade, the currency of the West. Cattle rustling wasn't just theft, it was survival. And for the German ranchers of Mason County, it was destroying their livelihoods. When they went to the local authorities for help, they found only indifference or corruption. Trail bosses who looked the other way, sheriffs who shared in the profit, men who stole the very cattle they swore to protect. By 1872, a handful of German settlers had had enough. They elected a new sheriff, John Clark, and appointed a cattle inspector, Dan Horster, both determined to bring order to the lawless county. They formed posses, tracked rustlers, and hunted the outlaws that plagued the frontier. But when they arrested the infamous Backus brothers and their gang, 5 men accused of stealing cattle by the dozen, justice didn't follow the law. It followed rumor. Whispers spread through town that Clark and Horster planned to have the prisoners lynched. And when the gossip reached the streets, it caught fire. One February night in 1875, 40 men surrounded the Mason County jailhouse. They carried torches, ropes, and hate. Deputy John Worley tried to hold them back, but a battering ram shattered the door. Moments later, 4 men, Elijah and Pete Backus, Abe Wiggins, and Tom Turley, swung from the rafters. Their shadows flickered in the torchlight. The law had lost control. Sheriff Clark arrived too late, his badge glinting in the firelight as the mob disappeared into the dark. And what had begun as an effort to stop rustlers became the first spark of the Hoodoo War. They called themselves the Hoodoos, vigilantes cloaked in night, their faces painted black with charcoal. To some, they were heroes cleansing the land of thieves. To others, they were murderers who had replaced the law with fear. At first, their strikes were small, an ambush here, a warning there. But by spring, the frontier had turned feverish. When word spread that the Hoodoos planned to kill Tom Gamble, the man whose rumor had started it all, Sheriff Clark tried to stop the cycle. He gathered 60 men, Germans and Texans alike, hoping to make peace. For a brief moment, it worked. Both sides promised to end the bloodshed. But peace was a fragile thing in the West. And by May, the truce was broken. Cattle Inspector Horster revoked the bond of a local man named Tim Williamson, a respected American rancher accused of stealing calves. Deputy Worley arrested him, but before the two even left his property, a mob of German settlers intercepted them. Peter Bader, a farmer with vengeance in his eyes, raised his rifle. The gunshot echoed through the hills. Tim Williamson fell dead before he ever saw trial, and Mason County descended into chaos. Tim Williamson's adopted son, Scott Cooley, was no ordinary man. He'd been raised on the frontier. Once a Texas Ranger, a soldier hardened by violence. And when he heard that his foster father had been murdered, he rode south to Mason County with vengeance on his mind. He asked questions quietly, but his intent was clear. By summer, he had gathered a gang of men, old rangers, outlaws, and one infamous gunslinger named Johnny Ringo. Together, they brought the Hoodoo War to the doorstep of every man involved in Williamson's death. The first to fall was Deputy John Worley. Cooley found him digging a well one August afternoon. He walked up behind him, aimed, and fired a single shot. Worley collapsed instantly. Then, as if to send a message to the whole of Mason County, Cooley scalped the deputy where he lay. The town fell into panic. German settlers fled or fortified their homes, and the Hoodoos, now terrified of becoming the hunted, prepared for retribution. Over the next months, Cooley and his gang unleashed a storm of blood. They ambushed Horster, shot him dead while he rode past a barber shop. They tracked Peter Bader, the farmer who'd fired the fatal bullet into Williamson, and when they found him, they killed him and his brother in cold blood. The Texas Rangers were finally sent to restore order. But even they couldn't stop the killings. Some Rangers secretly sympathized with Cooley. Others turned a blind eye, saying, "You can't outlaw vengeance on the frontier." By 1876, the Mason County War had burned through the land like a wildfire. Sheriffs were gone, courthouses were torched, and the official records, every name, every trial, every account, were lost to the flames. Scott Cooley himself disappeared soon after, his death shrouded in rumor. Some said fever took him. Others whispered he'd been poisoned at the Nimitz Hotel in Fredericksburg, killed not by his enemies, but by the same revenge he had once sworn to deliver. And so, the Hoodoo War faded into silence, its ashes scattered across the Texas plains, where justice and vengeance became one and the same. But Mason County wasn't the only land to drown in its own pride. Almost 3 decades earlier, in the hills of Arkansas, another feud had torn a community apart. A war not fought for cattle or money, but for politics. They called it the Tutt-Everett War. It began with 2 families, the Tutts and the Everetts, in Marion County, Arkansas. One loyal to the Democrats, the other to the Whigs. 2 clans, both powerful, both stubborn, both determined to rule the county. And when pride meets politics, there's only ever one outcome on the frontier. The Everetts were newcomers, hard-headed men from Kentucky. The Tutts were old settlers from Tennessee, gamblers and saloon owners who liked their whiskey as strong as their opinions. At first, it was just words, arguments at town meetings, barroom debates that turned to shouting matches. But in the West, every word carried a gun behind it. By the 1840s, Marion County was split in 2. You were either a Tutt or an Everett. There was no in-between. And one summer night in Yellville, the feud erupted. A political debate turned violent. A Tutt supporter, Alfred Burns, smashed an Everett brother's skull with a hoe. The man lived, Barely, but the blood spilled that day set the tone for the years to come. By 1848, the county was a powder keg. Sim Everett, one of the family's patriarchs, was gunned down during another argument in town. Within 2 days, the Everetts retaliated, killing William King and his son, both Tutt allies. And just like that, the feud became war. For months, gunfights broke out in the streets. Barroom brawls, ambushes, courthouse shootouts, until Yellville itself became a battlefield. On Independence Day, 1848, the violence reached its peak. Sheriff Jesse Mooney tried to restore peace, but before his men could intervene, a brawl in town exploded into chaos. When the smoke cleared, 5 men were dead, Bart Everett among them, and 3 members of the Tutt clan lying beside him. The blood pooled in the dirt like ink, marking Marion County forever. Even that didn't end it. Each family buried their dead and vowed revenge. Days later, the Everetts tracked down Dave Sinclair, the man who'd shot their brother, and killed him without a word. Another Tutt fell. Another Everett followed. And the killing went on like a fever that no one could break. Sheriff Mooney begged the governor for help. He sent his own son, Thomas, to Little Rock to plead for militia reinforcements. But Thomas never came back. His horse was found alone on the trail. The boy vanished without a trace. Some say the Tutts killed him. Others say he ran to escape the madness. Whatever the truth, it was one more ghost haunting a county already lost to rage. Governor Thomas Drew eventually sent a militia. They arrested men from both sides, but the peace didn't last. The Everetts broke their allies out of jail. The Tutts rallied new support, and the streets of Yellville ran red once again. Then came the final strike. An Everett patriarch hired a mysterious gunman, known only as the Dutchman. He arrived one night, silent as a shadow, and waited by the banks of Crooked Creek. When Hansford Tutt, the head of the Tutt family, came riding by, the Dutchman drew his gun and fired once. The bullet struck true. Hansford Tutt fell from his horse, dead before he hit the ground. And just like that, the feud was over. The Tutts left Marion County in silence. The Everetts soon followed, broken by a cholera outbreak that swept through Arkansas. 2 families, dozens dead. No victory, no justice. Only another echo of the West's most dangerous truth, that pride kills faster than bullets. In the end, both wars, Mason County and Marion County, tell the same story. That on the frontier, law came second to loyalty. That the line between justice and vengeance blurred until no one could tell them apart. And that even the smallest spark, a rumor, a rivalry, a difference in belief, could burn an entire town to the ground. Because in the Wild West, you didn't just fight for your land or your family. You fought for your name. And sometimes, that was enough to destroy everything else. You've been watching Echoing Westwinds, where the ghosts of the frontier still whisper their stories through the dust. If you want more tales of the forgotten, the lawless, and the lost, subscribe and join us next time as we ride deeper into the heart of America's untamed past.